We are just beginning to scratch the surface, folks. This is part 2 of 6 of 2 members of the Castanai clan. The Castanai clan. They came by the other night. I love sitting down with Nick and Chris because they're a lot like me. I won't call them geeks because I think Nick is a self-proclaimed goth rather than a geek or of goth background. Nonetheless, this episode digs a little bit deeper. We start talking about some moral questions that arise when you talk about virtual reality. And I think it's interesting the way that people feel about... Well, just check out this episode. This is part 2 of 6, and I'll catch you guys at the end of this video to discuss what was discussed.
Or they may not have access to technology.
Now there's some sci-fi. What's next? What is next to come?
Well, from what I've seen for sci-fi, the future is dim. Very dim.
Really?
From all the shitty movies I saw in that...
Yeah. But what about writers, though? That's, I think it's safe to say that the creativity in the film industry is
died.
Dead.
It is dead.
Or at least in mainstream. You're going to have to look at independent.
Yeah.
You know. This is an opportunity for people. I watched a video today, actually. I posted it on Facebook. I don't know if you saw it or not. It was a guy that said that the richest place in the world is a graveyard.
Oh, yeah.
Because all the ideas have died. Yeah. All the songs that haven't been sung, all the stories that haven't been told, because no one takes the initiative to go forward. And you're right. This is the time for independent writers to, like, step up. And, like, and they are. Yeah, I think you're right. Like, did you see Chronicle?
I don't think so.
That was a found footage movie about these kids that find a cave. They don't really explain it very well. And they all gain superpowers from it.
Yeah, I heard about that.
It was pretty good. It was very original. And I'd love to see sci-fi go in the direction of people like that who, like, you know, these no-name people that come forward with this story idea. And I'm sure the studios are looking for stuff like that. I mean, they must be.
It's funny, like, fantasy and sci-fi are very divisive places. Like, you have people in each group that have very specific interests within them. Like, there are people in sci-fi, like, give an example, Star Trek.
Well, we talked about this, yeah.
That are absolute fanatics, and then there are people in fantasy that are absolute Tolkien fans, absolute Harry Potter fans, or whatever.
George R. R. Martin or whatever.
Game of Thrones fans, or heavy, Robert E. Howard fans. Although they generally don't, describe themselves just a fantasy.
Well, there's a rare case for me. Like, I read the first 3.5 George R. R. Martin books. And the first, 2 I really loved. Yep. The third one I was like, okay. And then I started reading the fourth one. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck this. I just don't enjoy it. I like the fact that he's out of the box and he's willing to kill main characters and so on and so forth. But I got tired of it. I couldn't get attached to anybody. Yeah. But I like this show better than I like the books.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would probably be in agreement if I had read the books, but I have not, so I can't agree with you yet because I can't. I can't.
Have you seen this new game coming up for the PS4? I think it's up your... Well, maybe not.
What is the name?
It's the one about crap. It's a horror-based game, but it almost looks like the old 80s horror.
Yeah, that's coming out. That's already out. What's coming out in a few weeks?
What's the name of this?
Let's just look it up.
Do you know, Chris?
I don't know the name. I do know what you're talking about, though. There's like an 80s slasher.
Yes,
kind of game.
that's
okay,
exactly what
I did see that. Yeah.
It's gonna drive me crazy though until I get a name.
But I thought it was for PC.
Until Dawn.
Until Dawn. That's it. Yeah.
That's it.
Let me see the site.
This is Games Radar.
Yeah, this is a really cool game.
No, that's not what I saw.
Yeah,
it's
really
look
cool.
like.
Or maybe
it is. It's about a cabin in the woods.
Yeah,
it's
kind of like but like it's different every time. I think. Like
yes,
you get to choose who survives.
Yes. Everybody can survive. Nobody can survive. Yeah. Like you can come up with so many different endings.
So you're kind of a director, like you guide it, or a player.
I don't know.
Until Dawn. Sorry.
Because I think the one that I saw, you actually played a killer.
Well, yeah, that's a different game that I saw.
Yeah.
It was early June.
Now, this would be an interesting game with the whole new VR coming out with the Oculus Rift and the Morpheus Project Morpheus. What do you think about that? Is it a fad?
It sounds kind of faddish to me.
Well, I think it is. And hindsight's 2020. I mean, a couple years from now, we'll look back and be like, oh yeah, completely revolutionized the industry. But honestly, I don't think so. We've seen it so many times before. Where I don't want to use the Power Glove as an example because it's a stupid one, but it's kind of the
don't want to mention
typical
the Virtual Boy.
Yeah.
I have a Virtual Boy game around here.
God!
I'm not going to say it's that bad because I think you've seen things with the Kinect and like different motion capture devices that I think were more than just a fad.
Yeah.
But you don't really see that stuff really revolutionizing the way we play video games.
I think the House of the Future. If you ever see those cartoons, you probably don't because I'm way.
No, I know.
Like, in the future, we will have flying cars and this and that. Well, they used to. When I think about the House of the Future, I think of rooms being built on screens. You know what I mean? Like, so that you can like
a smart room.
Right, in a sense where like everything is around you. Then virtual reality. You know, I mean, obviously you're talking about millions of dollars at this point.
From Star Trek.
Right. That then you get then you get into holograms and stuff. That's just
that stuff kind of boggles the mind as to why.
Or even a step further, if you could talk about states of altered consciousness, taking a chemical and going into a dream state. Like
that's a good idea.
Thinking it, or through some other means,
hate to see the side effects.
I
hate to get stuck. That would just suck.
Well, I'd be more worried about the social ramifications. Like, what effect would it have on the real world?
People would just
right.
go out.
Yeah, I mean, you could have an instance where people are taking synthetic drugs to literally escape reality.
Yeah. Well, it seems that way. Like, well, in a situation like that, though, that's a whole other game altogether. Because if you got into, a virtual reality where you're using a drug or a food or a liquid or something to change your perception, like, at what point do you start crossing over your own lines? You know what I mean? Like,
you start to wonder what reality really is.
Right, because at that point, like, you don't have to be true to your morality or anything like that. You can be like, you know what? I've always wondered what it'd be like to go into a store and just beat the tar out of a clerk or something. Not that I've ever thought of that personally, but like in a situation like that, you can do that. You can see the results and you can weigh them and measure them for yourself and be like, okay, that's the results of me doing something in that world. How far can I push myself in the real world?
Yeah, well, and it raises the issue, the perennial question about people becoming desensitized to violence.
Well, yeah,
right. And it's easy to claim, and I do, that video games they at least have a negligible effect.
Yeah, they
do. They don't. Interact in the real world because there's a clear delineation between what's in a video game and what's in the real world.
That's true.
I think.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of people who wouldn't hurt a fly, and yet in video games will do terrible.
Very violent games.
I will.
But
when I get my hands on Grand Theft Auto, I would never do half of the stuff I've done in Grand Theft Auto.
Obviously not.
But it's fun. It's not hurting anybody inside of this game. That is a good point. If that virtual reality comes,
then it is. You're actively.
You're physically.
You are actively doing this.
Well,
but you're doing it to an inanimate object.
That's true.
Or not, or not a figment of your experience.
A shadow.
What if it's PvP? What if you're in a virtual reality PvP situation?
Well, at that point, it's just like airsoft or something like that.
Well, I guess you're right. Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't think it'd be a problem. But the problem is that the way that you experience a video game is very different from the way that you experience the real world.
Like war is very different than a video game war.
Right. You're not playing Call of Duty.
No, it's not at all like that.
It's not.
No.
Damn it.
But I mean, even beyond the I guess the topical differences, there's still this idea that in a situation where it's virtual reality, where it is the world that you perceive it to be, there's that question about confusion.
Yeah.
Like you're used to doing things in one world. What's the difference? Like, how do we?
And when it gets to the point where it's so realistic looking, and you're so like, because video games, it's obviously
there's no question.
Right. Although it's getting better.
Yeah, it is getting better. But if you were in an instance where it did look real, and you were physically there, as if like in a virtual reality type of way, it does condition you differently.
Yeah, that's the good word for it, actually.
I think condition is a better word. I don't think it will actively change who you are, unless it's like some type of really crazy drug.
Right. Like, but I've never been in a fight with anybody before. But if I could virtually get into a fight with somebody, I think it'd be cool.
Well,
but then I have to wonder. I mean, I really do. If like, okay, I know how to throw a punch now. I saw that it connected with this guy,
and it worked.
And it worked. Like, when's the next time I might have the opportunity? I don't know.
It would definitely condition you differently. I think it would be a good training tool.
Yeah, but it would only condition your psyche, or the way that, or your,
Maybe.
there would be a lot of things that would be different.
it would probably mostly, if you were to say train with it, let's say you're a boxer, it may improve muscle memory and stuff like that.
Well, look at like flight simulators. People train on.
Yeah, it would be the same as like that.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be something that would make you more willing to be violent.
I heard a study recently, muscle memory. Speaking of muscle memory, where people who pretend to be lifting weights are getting the same results as people who are lifting weights. I don't know if it's a health thing or if it's a muscle thing, because you got to tear muscle to build muscle. But like, I can't remember where the study was that I read or something, but it sounded really interesting. And I was just like,
that's odd.
Yeah, totally off the subject.
Yeah, but I mean, and also I wonder if you're in a virtual, if virtual reality really did take on the semblance of reality, would we be actually willing to do things in virtual reality that we would?
I don't think we would,
because I don't know. I mean, because we're still biological animals programmed by evolution to respond to certain situations.
I think if we were like given, like if you were in a virtual reality thing and you got shot at, your reaction, if you did not know you were in a virtual reality, would be the same.
Well, no, even if you did know you were in virtual reality, because you're experiencing that reality the same way you would this one, it may still trigger the same reaction.
Right. It may trigger your reptilian brain.
Well, that like, it kind of brings back my GTA point. Like, I can play that game and separate myself from it, but in a virtual reality setting, would I? Or like, would I be able to take my virtual form and do things that I wouldn't do in a real world versus, I pick up a controller, I look at a screen, and I beat the tar of an old lady because it's funny, and everybody's like, "Oh, look at that! My star went up. The cops are going to." Not like I enjoy beating up old ladies. But.
Yeah, I think if you were to do it in another parallel reality, manufactured reality, and you experienced it the same way, you saw the grittiness and the
realistic.
You experienced the full effect of that action. I don't know if you would.
I don't think I could.
Yeah, if you did the first time, you may do it a few times, once, and then you're like, wow, this is
kind of like, that's not good. Like, I just beat the tar out of an old lady.
Right.
You should feel awful.
And of course, this all depends on how this reality is constructed. Is it?
Yeah.
Because we don't know if they might throw some things in there to make it clear that this isn't the same thing.
Right.
You could probably easily make it so that the ramifications of your actions aren't entirely.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would create something like that. Like, I don't think they would, because it wouldn't sell very well.
Well, I mean, I do think, taking it back to the root of what we're talking about, I do think that it's only a matter of time before the controller does go away.
Yeah,
I mean, they've tested it with, like, the last Wii. Yeah, you had a controller, but you were making the actions of bowling.
Right.
Now you've got the Kinect 1.0 that came out, which they're not going to be supporting anymore pretty soon. And now the Kinect 2. And my only problem with all of this has ever been, like, I would think it'd be fun to play a virtual reality shooter game.
Yeah.
To be completely honest. My only problem is you still have to have something to move forward, to strafe, to do stuff like that. I'm like, when and how do you get to the point where it's using, thought recognition or something like that, where you're like, okay, I want to move towards that building, and just thinking about it moves.
You would have to have some crazy sensors on that thing.
There are virtual,
Yeah, but they usually have sensors that are attached to your skull, or not skull, but to your head, that detect neurons through, like, impulse. But.
So maybe as babies we just started installing this hardware right off the bat.
I could see that going awfully.
That raises a lot of it.
It does. I mean,
I don't want you here anymore.
But then, like, what about upgrading hardware? When you're 20, when you're 30, because think about computers nowadays versus like 5-10 years ago.
Let's just say it's a bad idea.
Yeah, because you don't want antiquated hardware in your brain. You would want the next greatest hardware.
And at that point, human potential, that's kind of a terrifying prospect, because then human potential becomes something that can be easily controlled by people in power. I mean, then we could actually have an instance where kind of the end result of social Darwinism's actually realized without actually having to go through that process.
That's true.
You can have a alpha class of humans equipped in a certain way, for certain purposes, and other people
who are working class or slave class.
Yeah, what do you think about how much is out there now that we know about, like drones and even Google Maps for that matter? To the degree that you can get to, like, could you imagine a point where you had, you know, Google Man, where, you know, you could see through somebody else's eyes? Like, that's creepy. I mean, obviously, I don't think the government's going to leak something like that out to the... Yeah.
I don't think I'd even want to do that at that point. But I'm sure some people do.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. Like, because, I mean, I think about, like, if I would like to see a grocery store in
or like
China right now. Like, I'd be like, hey, Lau, do you mind if I log into your brain?
Or like a trail, like a hiking trail. Like if you wanted to learn a trail better, you would use that.
Yeah.
Or like I could see something like that. Not so much you're looking through the guy's eyes, but you're looking through like a camera mount.
Yeah. But it is such a slippery slope. It's true. Like, when does the government be like, okay, you guys have all this fun stuff. It's awesome. Oh yeah, we're just gonna monitor it here and there, kind of like, you know, they do now, like with the whole.
I'm not too overly worried about. Well, I am worried about the government, but I'm more worried about the people who control the government, with the corporations and stuff like that, who are like.
I don't even consider our
the oligarchs that rule this land.
Isn't that sad? That's really sad.
I don't know. When we talk about technology, we have to realize, and this is, I think, there's another point to this later that's a little tangential, but the reality with technology is we like to think that we're in control and we're controlling our own destiny, but really, you know, this car is out of control.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, we've never seen this kind of technological growth, this, you know, amount of, you know, economic growth, population growth. We're living in a time of exponential growth in just about every conceivable, you know, category in our society. And this is unprecedented. We have nothing to go by. And we don't know where it's going. No one controls it. That's the thing. That it's entropy is what's happening. Chaos. It's really just creating more chaos and less control.
We think this is such a wonderful and beautiful tool that we can take our selfies.
Sure.
And you know what? All that's getting location stamped, and like it's taking pictures of everything around you, and it's just like, this is really a ball and chain. Is all it really is. Just
it's
dragging
a security hazard.
And it's a security hazard. It's something that like anybody can access probably at, you know, any given time if they have the power or the skills to do so. So I mean,
just, you know,
but you know, I don't know why it reminded me of this, but it reminded me of like Alan Moore when he was talking about like conspiracy theories, how he doesn't really believe that there's any like united, you know, cabal, this, you know, room of, you know, a smoke-filled room where all the, you know, Fortune 500 men meet.
Right.
It's really that there are many disparate people out there with their own conspiracy theories, trying to gain power. And really what we're seeing isn't so much this one single movement that's controlling, and, you know, one single puppet master. It's a lot of different people controlling different fingers moving the puppets. And they're all moving it for their own goals. So it's really much more chaotic. Yeah. It's always been about power. Ever since humanity's been able to create surplus resources, that, you know, whether it's
somebody else wants the surplus.
Whenever that surplus becomes available, power enters the equation. And then once power enters the equation, you need bureaucracy, you need people to be able to enforce it, and it just grows from there.
Civilization. I mean, it's not good for you kids.
Nope.
So, you know,
run away.
It's almost like human. I mean, it's really. I mean, in a sense, I think Agent Smith is right. Humanity is a virus in a lot of ways. You know, we go.
I find this topic intriguing. This whole concept of virtual reality, of modern technology, and the path it's on, the path it's going on, and where its sources are. Now, I, to a very small degree, have some conspiracies I believe in. I don't think, personally, I don't believe that when the internet became available, when social media was on the rise, or its initial rise, I don't think the government, or those who control the government, realized the power they were putting into the hands of the people that they fear the most. I've explained, I don't think you saw it on camera before, but I've explained this before. In modern society, we the people are the masses. We stand here holding our representatives in place, our government officials, our leaders, those who command and control them, the lobbyists. We have the power to step off of that plank that holds them up and let them fall. We just choose not to. We rely on them to a certain degree. Now, I know I'm talking a little conservative here. I know I'm talking a little bit right-winged, but in this case, I do kind of agree. We need less government, or we need a government that's more focused on the people and the people's needs and wants. When they handed us smartphones, this wasn't an accident, I don't believe. These have tracking information on them. I know I'm talking a little crazy, and I know you and I, people like us on a normal day-to-day basis, probably aren't being tracked each moment of the day. We're not being recorded. They're looking for bigger problems than you or I. However, if we believe that this was a luxury provided to us, I don't think so at all. I think not only is it not a luxury to us, I believe it is a way to enslave us, and I do believe it's a way for us to become distracted from all the things around us that really deserve our attention. Are they bad to have? No. If you have self-control, I think they're a wonderful thing to have. However, nonetheless, if you think that this isn't A, a moneymaker for major corporations who are enslaving us, and B, a way to control and track our movements, thoughts, and the way we communicate, then I think it's a little naive. I could be wrong, though. I mean, I'm not perfect, and I'm not a genius when it comes to this stuff. Anywho, so that's part 2. I really like that. Part 3, we're going to move on to the death of humans. Not necessarily. We're going to talk about if you were the last man on Earth. I know we've talked about this on the show between us, but I wanted to get other people's views. So check out part 3, and I'll either see you at the beginning, the middle, or the end of the next one. So you guys take care. Thanks for watching.